Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Okay. So let us start. I have actually just sent you a mail, and also in the conversation here, I have shared a PDF document for a leave management system specification. Right. So please open that. Keep that with you. We are going to discuss about that. Right. So I will also open it here, but it may be difficult to read in this sharing. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we are now going to work on designing of the system from specification. Right. So if you think back in terms of the SDLC, we have the requirement specification stage, then analysis, then design. Then we have that design brings it down from an abstract design to high level design to low level design. Then you have the coding or implementation, which is the big chunk, followed by testing. I mean, not followed by in the sense that it will have to be waterfall, but the testing stage and deployment. So if we look at these stages, you are very well equipped now with the coding part of the SDLC stage. You know a powerful object-oriented language, you know the nuances, you have done a number of assignments and all. So our focus in terms of completing the learning in terms of the SDLC stages would be to first focus on the requirements analysis and design. To be done. So the way we will approach is we will work with an example, a running example, so that things do not become very abstract as we discuss. We are starting with a specification which I have created for you for a leave management system, and using that we are going to illustrate certain ways of doing the analysis and the design, and then we are going to use this continue to use this example to express the analysis and the design in the form of a standard representation known as UML, Unified Modeling Language. Right. So that's broadly the objective, but it will be a little bit on the kind of in the hands-on working mode than just theories being coded, because the theories are all very, I should say, intuitive and obvious. There is no special difficulty in them, but it is a practice which really makes a difference. So to get started, here is a specification which is fairly clearly written, because normally you will not get specifications written in this way. Normally we'll get them with a lot of ambiguities and contradiction, but here it is clearly written so that you can, I mean, at the beginning you don't have to get confused. So this is about a company which for whom you have to develop a leave management system, right? So company wants to manage the attendance and the leave of its employee through this system. The company has three categories of employees, right? Executive, who work as individual contributors and they report to a lead person. The lead persons, so every executive has a unique lead to report to, and every executive to whom every lead to whom an executive is reporting has the responsibility to approve or regret the leave applications of the executive. Lead in turn reports to the manager. A manager approves or regrets the leaves of the lead, and it is specified that in the company there is only one manager. This is just to keep our sample case simple. Now, in terms of the leave, since this is a leave management system, so there is a lot of specification for the leaves. There are different categories of leave. For example, you have casual leave. And if you see, let me just explain one. The rest will be similar. So suppose you have casual leave. Casual leave is available. 10 casual leaves are available in a calendar year. That is from 1st January to 31st December. And all the casual leaves are credited to an employee on 1st January. For employees joining in the middle of the year, the number of casual leaves are prorated, and casual leaves cannot be carried over to the next calendar year. You have to, whatever, if you are eligible for 10, but if you have taken 6, 4 casual leave on 31st December will become unusable for the next year. More than 2 casual leaves cannot be availed at a time. That is, you cannot take more than 2 consecutive days of casual leave. And it cannot be clubbed with other types of leave. And total period of absence, including holidays, cannot be more than 4 days. So you can see that with this, you can just club 2 days with a weekend, not more than that. Holidays intervening the absence are not counted as leave. Right? So if you take leave on Friday and Monday, then Saturday, Sunday, the holidays are not counted in that. Casual leaves do not need pre-approval, but must be approved within 2 days of its availability. You may apply and get an approval, or you may do it post-facto. In contrast, you have earned leave, where there are 15 earned leaves available in a year. And unlike casual leave, they are not credited at the beginning of the year. Every completion of every full month service will earn an employee 1.5 earned leave. And earned leaves can be carried over to the next calendar year, and you can accumulate up to 45 days. When it crosses 45 days, then on completion of the current quarter, 30 days are encashed and paid to the employee. 30 days of basic salary is paid to them. Remaining earned leaves continue in that account. All earned leaves are encashed when the employee leaves the company. Similarly, earned leaves can be availed at a stretch up to an existing balance. It can be clubbed with other leaves, except of course the casual leave. All other holidays within the leave of absence of earned leave is counted as earned leave. This is different from casual leave. In exceptional cases, manager can approve more earned leave than what exists in one's account. Maximum of 15 days of negative balance is allowed. All earned leaves must be pre-approved, at least by you. So in this way, so these are the 2 primary kinds of leave. In this way, you have other forms of leave like duty leave when you are on leave on work. You have sick leave when you are not well. You have maternity leave for female employees. You have parental leave for when you become a parent biologically or by adoption. You have then you may still get a leave without pay when you are not paid and so on. Right? So details you have to read. So we have learned about the employees, the executive, lead, and manager, and different types of leave to be able to design the leave management system. Now, the basic notings are every leave leaving aside the exceptions as mentioned, has to be for an employee is approved or regretted by the lead or manager to whom that particular employee reports. Leave is a privilege and is not a right. Hence, approved leave can also be revoked. That is, once you apply, you may be approved or regretted. But even after approval, your manager or lead may revoke your leave, cancel your leave. Any other leave of absence is considered an unauthorized leave for which salary is deducted. More than 1 week's unauthorized leave warrants disciplinary action. Okay. So this is more or less about the about the system. Now comes the use cases of the leave management system. That is use case mean, and we will see that a lot more when we do UML. But use case broadly means that how do you expect the users to use the system? What are the different possible typical use of the system? For example, it has to manage the logins, of course, manage the leave for employees, that is a leave accounting has to be there. Whenever a new employee joins, a new account has to be created with personal details and login ID and so on. Every employee then can do certain things. For example, can record his or her daily attendance, request for a leave, cancel and approve leave that is not yet availed. This is different from revocation. Revocation can be done by your lead or manager. Cancellation is what you can do yourself. You can avail the leave if it is approved, check your leave balance and so on. Lead can do all of this because lead also is an employee. But in addition, the lead can approve or regret the leave request, revoke an approved leave, and check the leave balance of the people who are reporting to the lead. Similar things manager can do. In addition to that, manager can perform some actual credit debit of leaves, perform administrative functions and so on. And there is a system administrator. The system administrator may not be a human being. It is basically a periodic cron job that performs batch tasks to credit leave, debit leave, adjust leaves for all employees. Okay? So that could be day end batch, month end batch, quarter end batch, and so on. Okay? So this is the basic specification of the leave management system, for which we have to do an object-oriented analysis and design for the system. So let me stop at this point and check if you are, more or less clear about the requirements of the system. Any questions on the?
Sir, what is quarter?
Pardon?
Is the quarter literally the quarter of the year?
Quarter is JFM is a quarter. January, February, March. Right. So it is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So there are 4 quarters in the year. Right. So just to keep the thing simple, if you know, Indian system is rather complicated because we run 2 accounting years in every time. One is the calendar year, January to December end, and one is the financial year, which is from 1st April to 31st March. So it gets very complicated. So here what is done is we do not consider the financial year kind of quarters. So we consider only the calendar year. So it's January, February, March, April, May, June, like that. Clear? Any other question? No? Okay. So let me ask, if you are given this specification, how do you go about doing the design? What are the actions would you take? If you have to, your end goal is to start coding, and you need to know certain things for coding. So how do you analyze this two-page English or natural language description to what are the things that you will like to, extract out from this, and how will you do it? Let me hear some of it. Just, whatever comes to your mind, that is, don't hesitate, just tell me how do you go about.
Sir, what if we first decide upon a type of database which we'll be using?
Type of database that you will be using. So say the type of database comes at which level of SDLC?
Which level?
Of the SDLC. If you look at the life cycle, what is the point where it is absolutely necessary to know the database? Certainly at the coding level it is. Right. Also possibly at the low level design. But till up to that point, it is a system parameter. Database is a collection of functionalities. Can keep the data, query the data, update the data, export the data, and that's all. But then it does not really matter which database you use or whether you're using a flat file system, right? So actually those decisions should come from the analysis that you have done. Right? You're getting my point.
Yes, sir.
So how do you go about? What are the things that you will do? What would you like to analyze, and what would you like to design for?
Sir,
Yeah, please,
we can observe that this is kind of a server client software. So there should be, major backend performing on the tasks, and then in the front end there are many clients who are accessing the database. So we can first, the thing should be that how good our, the communication that we need to establish.
Excellent, Utsav. You're Utsav, right?
Yes, sir.
But again, think about SDLC, right? What you are talking about is system architecture, right? That is your software architecture. So that comes in the middle of the design phase. Right? You have not analyzed the system. You have not identified anything specific that you have to do. And you are straight away jumping to system architecture, and you want to get to the coding. Right? That's not the right way. For example, how do you know that the client server would be a good model? Right? Which part of the specification tells you that client server would be good? In fact, this may be a good point for clarification from the customer, that how you want to use this. That is not specified in the specification. Would you like to use it in a inside company local network, or you would like to use it at multiple sites of offices of the company across the city, or you would like to be a intranet kind of web application usages? That those things are not specified, and coupled with that, the input-output system, that is the user interface system, is also not specified. So those are valid questions at a later stage of SDLC. Right? But going to those which are not there in the specification before having analyzed the specification properly is certainly not the right way to go. You are putting the cart before the horse. Okay.
Got it, sir.
Got it. Got it. Feel free to argue. Right. This is, I know, analysis and design is not like C++ semantics, which is cast in stone. This is always, this is a creative process. So there will always be views, but there has to be some basic logic and reasons of why you do things in a certain way. Right?
Sir, the mode of communication.
More again, this comes at the system architecture.
Okay.
But first, given that you have an English document and you have to bring it to your language, right? Not C++. C++ is after the LLD, in the coding stage, or at the LLD level. So what are the concepts? What are the things that you would like to analyze? Okay, let us, I'm sure you all know, but you're finding it difficult to put it in right words. So let me again share. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, the first thing you need, if you just close your eyes and think about the C++ program that you would love to write, the first thing you will need to know that what are the concepts represented by different classes that will be there. You know, otherwise, where will you start coding? So, from the, and some of you have rightly pointed out about communication, about keeping it in databases and so on. If you have to do that, you have to identify the basic concepts that are involved, which we can say in our language would be classes. How those concepts are to be instantiated, which are objects, and what is their relationship. The relationship could be of varied kinds, whether the relationship could mean whether one object is a specialization of the other. The relationship could mean that whether two objects can interact. Relationship could mean that whether to perform a task, whether one object needs to collaborate with multiple other objects and so on. You want answers to these questions, right? Only then you will be able to get started with a design. Is this point clear as to why you have to start at this level? Because all that you have is 2 pages of English. I can simply call it a short story. But you cannot go from that point to a high level or low level design unless you can extract these concepts, their relationships, their structural behavior, their structural properties, their behavioral properties, and so on. Right? Makes sense? If you have questions, just raise. Don't hesitate. Right? Okay. So to be able to perform this, let's. The first thing we need to do is to set for ourselves what is the task that we are going to perform. The first task is to understand the specification, which is given in informal English description, like a story. And as an output of this task, this analysis task, what I want, I should be able to identify the different classes, identify the attributes of these classes, and the responsibilities that they have, right? So this is the transformation that I want. From this English description, I want to go to certain specific output, which is concrete in our terms, in terms of classes or concepts, the attributes they can have, and the responsibilities that each class will carry out, right? So this is what we want to do. Now, let's take a snippet from this specification, from this requirement specification, the SRS. It says the company wants to manage the attendance and leave of its employees through the LMS. And then it says the company has 3 categories of employees. Then it has described executive, manager, lead, and manager. Now, if you look into this snippet through the glasses of your requirement, then certain information do come out, right? That is, you can broadly start feeling that there are 3 categories of employees. So employee is something of it which is going to be a dominant concept. Possibly we will represent that by a class. Then we have subcategories in that. Executive, what is not directly specified is the fact that an executive is an employee, or a lead is an employee, or a manager is an employee. That is hidden in this sentence, that a company has 3 categories of employees, which imply that an executive is a kind of an employee. So is a lead, so is a manager. So you can see key concepts coming out. Then what else we have? We find a relationship. Executive report to a lead. Lead reports to manager. Okay? So you can see that there is a relationship between these concepts of executive, lead, different employees. Okay? What responsibilities we find? Every executive reports to a lead who approves or regrets her or his leave. So we can immediately identify that a lead has a responsibility to approve or regret leave. Couple of plain simple English sentences, but they are looked through our objective of identifying classes, attributes, and responsibilities and relationships. We can slowly extract the information and fill in those. You have an additional information that there is only one manager. So in our terms, you will immediately have a tickling that, manager is a singleton class. So this is what I'm trying to mean is an approach to analyzing a specification. Now, obviously, there could be various ways of doing it. And one approach that people have done, it's not necessary that that approach will have to be followed or has to be done to the letters, but it is good to do it on a couple of occasions so that that will become your natural way of understanding in analyzing the specifications. One approach is to do a linguistic analysis of the problem description. What we mean by linguistic description? We will try to identify different parts of speech in the description. The nouns, say the three or four primary ones. The nouns, the verbs, and the adjective adverbs. So let's say first we talk about extraction of nouns. All of us know what a noun is. And when we do that, we have to follow certain what is called rules of thumb. There's no foundational basis for this, but it will always help. That is, we should try to eliminate names of values, eliminate vague terms. So we should see that decorative sentences do not impact our analysis. But in the process, we should identify attributes, identify operation. In fact, while doing nouns, we should eliminate terms which are in fact relationships. Let us look at that part again. The same slide, the red words are nouns in this. Company, attendance, leave, employees. LMS is also a noun, but it is a specific name which is not relevant for our analysis. Requirement specifications. Specifications is also a noun, but we have not marked them, eliminated them by rule of thumb. Company again, employees, contributors, lead, executive. Like this, we have marked the identified nouns. Let us do it at a different snippet of the specification. When it starts discussing about the leaves, it says this at the beginning. The company has provisions for the following categories of leave associated with respective leave rules. And then the casual leave that we have, terms that we have. So company occurs again, leave occurs again. Leave rules are a new noun. Casual leave is new. Calendar year, employees we have seen. Year, which means calendar year. Types of leave, period, absence, holidays, days, pre-approval, etc. You get a whole lot of nouns coming in. Right? So the identification of nouns gives a very good clue, because every noun has a potential to become either a concept at a class level or an attribute, or maybe just incident. Right? So these are list of identified nouns. Let me show you another different diagram, different form of this analysis. This is the same specification document, except the fact that here we have used multiple colors to mark the parts of speech. So reds are nouns, blues are verbs, and greens are adjective or adverb. So they are qualifiers for nouns, or qualifier for verbs, or qualifier for qualifiers, as we know. Right? So we do that for the entire specification. I'm not sharing this particular annotated version with you because I would want you to work this out yourself. And then we collect their list. So that is the exercise that we are going through. Okay. So with that, again, let me come back to the slides. So in this process, so many nouns have been identified. It's quite amazing, right? I mean, that in these 2 pages, you have so many potential concepts that are involved, which you will have to deal with. You have to model, you have to design, and to be able to effectively deal with each one of them in some way or other. Now, at this stage, after the extraction of noun, you do a kind of a quality check. The quality check means that from the object-oriented perspective, you are trying to measure, or measure in the qualitative sense, not very quantitative sense, but you are trying to measure what is the coupling. That coupling is one concept. How has it been identified that which are the concepts which are closely related, closely coupled? We haven't done much yet, but some. The second is cohesion. Cohesion means that is the identified objects, or so to say concepts, consistent? Do they together give us a single picture that we are trying to paint? Well, not much yet, but some. And then the remaining metrics are not sufficiency. Is it has enough been done? Not clear. Does it cover everything? Not clear. Have we found what is the primitive concept and what are the derived concepts? No. Right? So the metric is not doing very good, but it is in the process of analysis. It is good to check on the metrics to know really how we are progressing and what we'll need to do next. So right now we know the nouns. So the actions required after this quality check, which is not great, is to identify the attributes and perform structural clustering. That is, we would like to take out from this that what are the nouns which are eligible for becoming attributes. And then we'd like to see that, are there concepts which are structurally similar so that they can be put together? Right? These are the 2 things that we need to do next. So again, on top is the list of nouns identified. Now, what is an attribute? An attribute, in terms of your English grammatical entity called noun and our understanding of what is a concept, a class, an object, and an attribute. What is the difference? A class or concept is a noun, so is an attribute. But the inherent difference is the way they participate in the system. So there are nouns which are used only as value. They are not expected to have any action. Those typically are attributes. So attribute has the characteristics that it is used as a value, but by itself, it may not have, or it does not have primary actions associated. So a login ID is a value. It's a noun, but it's a value. The name of an employee, the employee code, personal details, designation, salary, all of these are attributes. Whereas employees or executive, they will not be treated as attributes because they are concepts. They are also nouns, but they are concepts which are not only treated as value, they have actions, responsibilities associated with them. Okay? So in this way, we can identify a set of attributes from this noun analysis. Then we try to put some structural clustering. What is structural clustering? He is putting together entities or nouns which are significantly similar in their attributes and actions. But of course, since they are different nouns, there are differences. So, for example, the first that we can think of is people. So, manager, lead, executive, all can be, in fact, employees also can be clubbed together. These are people, these are action agents. They can initiate an action, they can react to an action, they can receive an action, and so on. Sysadmin, well, has a question mark, but it's in the same category. And we will say structurally the same because even though sysadmin may not be a Homo sapiens, but sysadmin is a person in the context of our system because our system finally identifies an entity as a people, as a person, based on the actions that that entity does. So if that entity is a cron job, which can initiate actions, react to other actions, and so on, then deserves to be in the similar cluster. We have an organizational cluster, which has a company. We have a things or document cluster, like medical certificate, parenthood certificate. These are very similar in that. So structurally, we can put them together. Going to the next slide, we have events, various kinds of holiday, disciplinary action. These are all different events. The casual leave, maternity leave, parental leave, and so on. Then you have a clustering of whole lot of temporal nouns, which talk about time. Maybe at different granularity, but they talk about time in general, like date, year, time, days, calendar year, week, month. In fact, quarter is missing from here, so quarter. All of these are temporal nouns. You have some incidental nouns, right, which are which happen to be here, but it's none of that is leave rules, administrative functions, period, and so on and so forth. Right? Daily attendance. So the identification of the nouns lead you to towards two major steps in the object-oriented analysis. It is telling you more or less pretty strongly as to what could be the attributes, and it is telling you that what are the concepts that are interrelated. They have a significant amount of common properties, have a similar structure to be put together. Right? So this is just a summary of the structural clustering. Again, let us do a quality check metric. Coupling is now improving. Why? Because we have done a structural clustering. So wherever we have put things in the same cluster, certainly there's a better coupling and cohesion that is resulting now. So from very low, we will possibly say it is low. But sufficiency, completeness, and primitiveness, they have not improved in this process. We have no way to comment on that. So what is the next action? We have tried to identify the concepts with structural similarity. Now let us try to identify them with behavioral similarity. This is called behavioral clustering. So, for example, one behavior is what takes place in the system. What takes place significantly is leaves, casual leave, maternity leave, unauthorized leave, and so on. There are initiators and there are participants. Like initiators are lead and manager and sysadmin, whereas participants are executive, lead, and manager. Okay. So initiator is an agent who has the responsibility and the authority to take the action, whereas a participant is one who takes part in the action but may not be the controlling agent. Right? So if we put the abstractions now from the linguistic analysis, we will do further classification based on what are the key abstractions that are coming out. Certainly the key abstractions are leave, employees, casual leave, earned leave, all those. Similarly will be executive lead. Those are the key abstractions. These abstractions are key in the context of the leave management system, mind you, because that is the purpose to serve. What are the supporting abstractions or non-key abstractions? Like medical certificate. If you want to apply for a maternity leave or for a sick leave, you have to produce medical certificate. So it is just incidental to one requirement, but it is not a key component of the leave management system that you are going to develop. So these are called non-key or supporting abstractions. Similarly, parenthood certificate, required only for paternal leave, disciplinary actions. So these are supporting abstractions. Right? You can see that we are more and more working towards also the sufficiency and completeness issues, because we are refining our identification of simple nouns and then attributes and then structures to key identification of different kinds of abstraction. Incidental abstractions are which will happen, but they're more like reflections of what happens with the other abstractions, but by themselves, they may not have any role, like leaf status. It's a passive kind of thing, or administrative functions. Then you have the property abstraction, which is basically your attributes. So you have variety of abstractions that are coming out, and slowly you are getting closer to your target object-based design paradigm, where you need to have your classes, attributes, responsibilities, inheritance relationship between concepts, and so on. So if we check on the metric now, coupling has not, there's been no reason to change the coupling. But cohesion naturally has improved, because you have found out abstractions which are key, abstractions which are not key, and so on and so forth. Sufficiency is still not achieved. Completeness is improving. Primitiveness is improving. So you have started identifying more and more concepts which are critical for the system. So your completeness and primitiveness are improving. So what should you decide next is the initial or first level marking of the key abstractions in terms of classes. So from the key, so more or less, the key abstractions that you have identified turn out to be your classes like company, employee, executive, lead, manager, leave, different types of leaves, sysadmin, and so on. These become your classes in general, right? So this is up to which we have been able to model, and naturally, the next would be to identify the responsibilities. You don't need to do this entire of the linguistic analysis and stage by stage. As you mature in reading specification and doing designs, this whole process of identifying the key abstractions, non-key abstractions, property abstractions, and so on, will start happening in your mind itself. So by reading it, you'll be able to immediately say, okay, with say 90% accuracy, you will be able to say these are the classes. But I just showed you a structured way of reasoning to get here. And once I have an initial identification of the classes, then the next question is, what do they do? What do these classes do? What are their responsibilities? Right? So the moment we are going to ask, what do they do? What is the responsibility? It points to an action. And in English, in natural language, the action is typically, in terms of grammar classification, it's a verb. So from the analysis, we want to now extract verbs. Which operations can be executed by a certain object? And we have the key objects in mind. And of course, it is while you do this identification, it is good not only to limit yourself to the current requirements, but also if you can project for the future. We will talk about those things more. react to these events, because those actions, anything that can happen with an action, will have to be brought in through the verb. Okay? So again, that same initial snippet, but now in blue, only the verbs are marked. Company wants to manage, employee who work, report to a lead, and so on. You can again see, like the noun, you can again see certain verbs are key actions important for your system, and certain are incidental. If a company wants, this want verb here is just a way of saying it would have no repercussion or implication in terms of your final, system design. Similarly, this is the other snippet, now marked with verbs. All CLs are credited. This is a verb, so credit operation, employees join operation, prorate operation, carryover operation, clubbing operation, counting, so on and so forth. And in this way, these are the identified verbs in the specification. Now, many of these verbs are in a derived form, right? So, like clubbed or availed, accumulated, these are derived forms. So, what you do is a process called stemming. That is, closely speaking, that the basic verb item which has led to this, you identify that. So you don't differentiate between can be clubbed and can't be clubbed. Those are for your final actions, but the basic verb is club. Basic verb is avail. And so on. So after stemming, this is the list of verbs that you are left with, which need to be mapped to the classes. We have run out of time. I'm sorry. I will stop here. If there's a quick question, I'll take, and then we'll continue tomorrow again. Any questions, friends? Is this approach making sense? Is it giving you some clarity of how to proceed with the specification to get to an object-based design? Any questions? No questions. Okay, then let us stop here. We will meet again tomorrow and continue on this discussion. Meanwhile, please try to annotate the leave management system specification for nouns, verbs, and adjective adverb. This is not an assignment. This is just for your understanding. Do that so that you can appreciate the approach better when we discuss it tomorrow. Please try to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.